Hey there, welcome back to another episode of Tony's Fords and Mustangs. Today, I'm going to review my 1970 Ford Mustang Mach 1. It'd only be fair to compare them to the cars that we have today. We're going to start by backing out of my garage, which in my 2021 Mach 1, piece of cake. First off, we got to pump the choke on the carburetor. So we're going to do that. And this is like a 5-pump jump, I think they call it. And we're going to fire up. Hey, look at that. Now my choke's set, so she's going to run at high idle for a little bit here. Get my emergency brake off. Oh, that's nice. Drop her into reverse. I don't have power steering, so this requires a little bit of arm strength. Made it out of the garage. Now I gotta turn it. The backup camera that doesn't exist. Come back around here a little bit. This is the part that you don't see from other reviewers, I don't think. And we're out. Okay. Popeye arms. I'm ready to go. Once you start moving, not having power steering isn't that big a deal. Now I gotta wait to get to some sort of operating temperature for the choke to jump down. Here's my throw. It's kind of like rowing a boat. My brakes are not power brakes either, although I did put a Wilwood master cylinder on it, and I do have disc front, drum rear. They actually stopped the car pretty well. Visibility in the old cars is pretty good, so you can see where you're going, which is nice. Bang it into the dashboard, drop it into your lap, and shift gears. Everything's mechanical, so there's nothing electronic. Your steering input's mechanical, brakes are mechanical or hydraulic, but mechanical as far as pushing a piston. Your shifter's mechanical because you're throwing some really long linkage rods around to get your gears. So the rear suspension in this car is leaf springs. Leaf spring technology was invented for the horse and carriage back in the 1600s. They did add dampeners to them sometime in the, well, I guess the model, after the Model Ts, a little bit after the Model Ts. So sometime in the 30s. But not a whole lot changed between 1930 and 1970. Choke's still on. That's no fun. Wants to stall on me. Now the one thing you're going to get in this car that you don't get in a new car is everybody looks at it. Because it's an old car, it's not something you see every day. Styling wise, the cars of the 60s and 70s, styling wise, were just awesome. Handling wise, not so hot. You're constantly making steering adjustments to keep this thing going straight. And that's due to a lot of things. The biggest thing is probably the steering box. It goes down to a pivot arm and then all your linkage underneath there. All the parts I have are new, excluding the steering box has about 11,000 miles on it, but they weren't that great from new. Gotta blow the cobwebs out of them sometimes too. Old cars don't like to run all that well until they're warmed up. far as gas mileage, the car doesn't do that bad. So I've got 350 rear gears in it, a 4-speed. It's a 351 Cleveland spread bore carburetor. It gets roughly about 19 to 20 out on the highway. Around town, not so well. But it's not that bad. It's applicable to today's Mach 1. Moseys down the road pretty well for a 51-year-old car. It's not up to the performance of the new cars. So this car, quarter mile is probably about a 15 and a half, something like that, if you get all your shift points right. There are always squeaks and rattles and that type of thing. You're going to have that with any old car. But a 51-year-old car, the squeaks, rattles are amplified. You get to the point where you just ignore them. The clutch on this car is heavy. So it's all spring. There's no hydraulic assistance whatsoever. So when you push the clutch in, you're depressing the clutch as well as a return spring, and the return spring on this thing is a pretty heavy return spring. So you do it over a long period of time, you're going to know it. As far as the seats and the way things are laid out, you've got to reach down to get your wipers. You've got to reach over to get your lights. You got to reach. Actually, the radio controls are pretty decent as to where they are. Heater controls are way down here. So you gotta reach down to get your heater controls. The instrument cluster is laid out well, which is good. The controls, everything's a reach. So you have to reach for all the controls. Ergonomics in the 60s and 70s weren't really thought of that much. It was more a matter of did you have something on the car, I guess, than it was how easy it was to reach. I'm on a country road now that's got some turns on it. And if I take these turns at 40 miles an hour, I'm working on it. I'm hanging in there. The body's leaning, it's rolling. A lot of that's due to the suspension and the tires. So here's a 40 mile an hour turn that you've got to work to keep it where you need it at in the corner. I love the noise. I love the sound of this car. I actually love this car. So you'll hear it. So far I've probably just bitched throughout this whole video, but I'm going to tell you there's something about this experience that can't be replicated by a new car. A new car is almost too precise. There's not as much there for the driver. This car, the driver's an integral part of just staying on the road and staying straight. That's where the fun is. You're fighting this thing to just keep going. 45, 50 miles an hour is way too fast for this car around these corners. But it's still fun. Whereas if I were my new car, probably change the radio, set the air conditioning. You're not doing that in this car. You're engaged, totally engaged the whole time you're in it. So to wrap this video up, compare a 1970 to a 2021 Mach 1. Huge difference. It's enormous. But I'm going to give you a little comparison, I guess. Some folks like wooden roller coasters and other ones like the steel coasters. I like both coasters. This car would be like the wooden roller coaster compared to a steel coaster of today. If you like roller coasters, you'll understand what I'm saying. The steel coasters give you loops and turns and higher G-forces, and they're faster. But there's something about that old wooden roller coaster. There's something there that makes it a lot of fun. It's not quite just sort of hanging on the tracks, and the car's shifting you around and going all over the place. And yeah, the speed isn't as much, but it's still a fun experience, and it's something that a steel coaster can't replicate. And it's the same way with this 70. I love my 2021 Mach 1, but I also love my 70, and it's for very different reasons. It's a cool car. I definitely like it. Should you buy one of these? If you have a place to store it, you can do anything to these cars. Everything's mechanical, so it's very simple. The thing you gotta understand is you're not going to set any speed records, that's for sure. And you need to be paying attention when you drive them. They need to be driven. They're not autopilots. The new cars they almost drive themselves. It's so easy. It's the total opposite in this thing, but it's still a blast to drive. I've driven this car 3,200 miles across the country, and you can watch those videos. And a lot of times it looks like I'm laboring. It's because, yeah, I am laboring. It is work over a long period of time. The clutch is heavy. The throws are imprecise. You need to be paying attention to what's going on at all times because the steering wanders around a little bit. The suspension is not set up to take high-speed corners. It just isn't. So that's a wrap. We'll see you next time. I hope you guys enjoyed this. So subscribe and watch other videos here. I think that's how it goes. So subscribe here, other videos here. If you do those things, that'd be awesome. I'm over 200 subscribers. Yeah. So and someday, I don't know, maybe we'll have 250. All right. But until next time, we'll see you.